And then what was the actual argument that you gave for moral realism? Because I think Quietus wanted to review it.
Yeah, so the argument is just based off evidence-based deliberation. So evidence-based deliberations generally reports objective facts about the respective domain and are motivated by objective facts. Moral deliberations are evidence-based. It involves intuitions, which are intrinsically probability reason. So moral deliberations most likely reports objective facts about its respective domain, which is ethics, via the inductive case that's available, and therefore moral realism would be true.
Where you said intuitions are intrinsically probability raising?
Yep. All this being
On what account of probability is that true?
under the objective account of probability. Intuitions have like predictive power in like various domains, so as a result of that, it would make it probability reason.
Are you just saying that?
And there's also neuroscientific studies which establishes that intuitions are strongly correlated with certain neural regions, which are responsible for predictive coding and error detection. So
the probability increase is restricted to certain domains?
No. So that would make it be restricted to certain domains. It's just saying that the fact that it generally tracks reality would be evidence for it being the case that if something is intuitive, it's most likely true. All else being equal.
Right. So
yeah. So there's no like, I don't see what you're
what if it's more predicted on?
By intrinsically probability reason, I'm just saying that under the condition that something is intuitive, all else being equal, that thing would be more likely. So intuitions would be like a thing which would guarantee the probability of a view if there's not any other probability factor which trumps that intuitive nature of a given theory or hypothesis. Like for example, predictive power or parsimony or empirical support for a given proposition.
There can be certain hypotheses where if you conditionalize us having certain intuitions on them, it would decrease the probability of the given hypothesis.
That's something which is granted, under my view. That's just relevant to the claim here.
It's intrinsically probability raising, but there's hypotheses that lower the probability of
view. Yeah, so you're saying that there can be cases where views which are intuitive actually decreases the probability of that view. I agree with that. But that's not attacking the argument.
Yeah, I was just rejecting that intuitions are intrinsically probability raising.
If by intrinsically probability raising, what you interpret that to mean is something which entails the probability of a given proposition or entails a proposition being more likely than its contrary hypothesis, then cool. I mean, obviously we'd agree that they are not intrinsically probability raising. What I'm saying here is that by intuitions being intrinsically probability raising, all I mean there is that all else being equal, if something is intuitive, then it would be more likely. Because intuitions generally tracks reality, and any view which opposes an intuitive view, in the absence of any sort of evidential, you could say, advantage for that view, would be something which posits more exceptions, and it would be less parsimonious as a result of that.
I didn't interpret you as speaking in the former sense.
Okay.
I still think it's false in the latter sense.
You think it's false in the latter sense? And what do you think the latter sense is?
He just left VC.
Who? Mojin?
Erik did. No, Erik did. That's who you were conversing with.
I'm back. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I know it was conversing with Erik. I just thought you were like
saying intuitions are probability raising is false on both interpretations.
So if intuitions generally track reality and we have like a view which is more intuitive and all the other evidential factors of the given proposition are equivalent between theory A and theory not A, why would it not be the case that intuitions would not raise the probability of that view?
Whether or not it will just depends on if the hypotheses predict that.
So you're agreeing with me?
If the
contrary hypothesis predicts the intuition favoring the specific view, then obviously the intuition exists and would be evidence against the view which is intuitive. That's granted. So that would not be something which applies to a ceteris paribus clause. That's you establishing that the contrary hypothesis has a high degree of predictive power. And as a result of that, the predictive power would trump the probability factor of the intuitive nature of the specific hypothesis.
If having the intuition wasn't predicted on any hypothesis, it wouldn't raise the probability at all.
Why?
That's just trivially true on Bayesian semantics for probability.
Why do you think Bayesian semantics of probability is the only kind of probability which relates to objective probability?
You can talk about different types if you want.
Okay, so for example, talk about the MDL principle. How is the MDL principle something which is entailed from Bayesian probability theorem?
That principle isn't giving a definition of probability.
But it accounts for probability. It is something which factors into probability.
Right, we're talking about definitions of probability.
Yeah, definition and so far as objective probability is concerned, something which is not dependent on like interpretations or like credences only. So I'm saying that like how is it going to be the case that given that specific account of probability you're going under, it would be the case that that would not be probability reason.
You're asking how it wouldn't be probability raising on my account?
Under the account we're both talking about. I don't know, like if you want to like use like a proprietary account and say like, well, given my proprietary account of objective probability, then it would be the case that it is not probability raising, then sure. But I mean, I'm talking about the general and the broader scope of probability in the objectivist sense in mathematics.
How are you defining probability?
I'm defining probability as something which measures the frequency of a given event occurring in reality.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm saying that like we have two propositions here, theory or proposition A and proposition B, right? And you're saying that like if we have proposition A which does not predict us intuiting that proposition to be correct, and there's no evidential weight towards any proposition, right? The fact that it does not or neither propositions predicts the intuition that exists in the data source, that's going to be evidence, or that would not be evidence for proposition A. You don't think that would be something which is probability raising in that specific case, correct?
But if you're giving a frequency interpretation, it could just be that intuitions don't raise the frequency of the hypothesis being true.
By frequency, you're just saying that like by frequency, are just talking about observational frequency?
Right, frequency would be even worse for you.
Yeah, so like it's not the case that like objectivist accounts of probability is just predicated on observational frequencies, right? So like for example, if you're talking about like the MDL principle in algorithmic information theory, for example, the descriptive simplicity of a theory is going to be something which is probability conducive, and that's not going to be dependent on observational frequencies, but that's just still going to be something which is reliant or related, sorry, to objective probability.
If you're talking about frequencies of something else, I'm happy to hear it.
You happen to hear frequencies of something else? I don't get the point of you mentioning this.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about if you're not talking about observational
Okay, so I
frequencies.
mean, we've already like went over like the definition of objective probability, which you've already agreed with. Like the definition of objective probability is just going to be that thing which shows the likelihood of a given theory, which does not depend on like credences of beliefs and like personal interpretations, personal subjective interpretations, right? And if we agree with this definition, then it would not be the case that intuitions in that specific hypothetical case scenario would not be probability reason.
Well, I gave a counterexample to that.
And that just falls, obviously.
These videos for Apollo. Let's get it.
It's like pretty simple, right? Like the proposition, like the proposition which is that let's say of like personal identity realism, and that like PID realism is true and the PID anti-realism is true, for example, right? And the first proposition is intuitive, right? If we have like a general rule in the background, which is that intuitions generally track reality, right? Then obviously the latter proposition is going to be less parsimonious because it posits more exceptions. So it has a shorter description length. And as a result of that, the error probability rate of that theory is just going to be higher than the first proposition. But that has nothing to do with like basing the concept of probability in the sense that you're talking about. But it still has something to do with objective probability. So the whole idea of confining objective probability to this Bayesian semantics is ridiculous. Right?
Wait, I just want to be very clear here. You're saying that given that we have in the background some principle like intuitions are reliable, that then
Generally
intuitions
tracking
will be
reality?
probability raising?
Yep.
You understand that that's trivial.
Okay, and that was the reason as to why I was saying that intuitions are intrinsically probability raising, which you contended initially. I pointed out and I was talking about the idea that intuitions generally tracks reality. That was my first reason on the table as to why they would be intrinsically probability raising in these contexts. and you deny this. So if you're going to just try to act as if it is trivially true, then why would you disagree with the trivially true statement from the beginning? It seems as if you're not tracking that it was trivially true.
Well, I was charitably interpreting that you weren't saying something that's analytically true. That you're
Okay.
trying to say something substantive, but if you weren't, that's fine.
If you think it was non-substantive, that's fine.
Well, you agreed with that, but whatever.
I don't agree with that, but whatever.
Yeah, let's get back to the actual argument.
Yeah, is your argument?
Yeah, so
do
like
you have a version of your argument in premise conclusion form, or is it some?
no,
Is it
it's just like an inductive argument. Really, does it require like a formalized version?
All right, just explain it.
Yeah, it's just saying that evidence-based deliberations generally reports objective facts about the respective domain, and moral deliberations are evidence-based because moral deliberations involves evidence, obviously, to like make certain decision making about like certain moralistic conclusions. And as a result of that, it's raised the probability of moral realism being true.
Wait, how does us citing objective facts when coming to make certain moral judgments raise the probability that moral facts themselves are stance independent?
It's saying that like I don't think you're grasping. So it's not just the fact that we have objective facts which motivates the decision-making process, which makes moral realism more likely. It's the fact that we have this inductive case of deliberations, for example, right, reporting objective facts about a given domain that these deliberations are about. So if it is, for example, the case that we have like a deliberation, which is moral deliberations, obviously, and these moral deliberations are reporting objective facts, they are motivated by objective facts and they're reporting objective facts about their respective domain, which would be ethics, right? Then it would be the case that these objective facts would be objective moral facts.
Why do I grant that we're reporting objective facts?
Pardon?
Why would I grant that we're intending to report objective moral facts?
I'm not here to like convince you to grant something to be the case. I'm just here to prove my argument. If you don't agree with it, that's your problem. I just want
Okay.
to
If you don't want to
contend
motivate the
towards it.
premise,
Like
then
what?
I'm fine
Like,
with
do
it.
you think like there's some issue with like the argument I'm giving here? Like, what's going to be the issue so far as the implication is concerned?
Look, I mean, if you're unwilling to motivate the premise, I'm just fine with ending it there.
If I want to what?
I'll leave what I just said open for speculation, I guess.
Oh, so like I'm like not hearing you properly. I guess like I'm not close enough to my mic or something. Are you like confused about like the proposition that I'm giving here on the table as to why moral realism is true, or are you just simply just do you have like an explicit contention with the information of like the arguments I've given this far, given like the fact that you don't believe the inductive case is going to be something which establishes moral realism?
Yeah, I don't grant that we're intending to report objective facts. Why would I grant that?
Hold on. Are you saying that you don't grant that moral deliberations intend to report objective facts?
Right.
I never made a claim about intentionality. What are you talking about?
You said we're
Like none of the
reporting objective facts.
independent variables in the inductive case is talking about the facts that any of the deliberations intends to report objective facts. It's just saying that it does in fact report subjective facts. So that's just a relevant non-point to the argument.
Well, by intend to report, I just mean what we mean by the terms, but that's fine. Why would I
I
why would I
intend to
grant that we're
report, you
reporting
mean
that?
to report? I don't think that was what you meant, but if you want to weasel your way out of that obvious tracking there, that's okay, right? The point is simply that my argument has nothing to do with intentionality. If you want to like me to like list all the cases of like evidence-based deliberations reporting objective facts about the respective domains, then that's fine. I can just do that right now if you want me to. And if you don't want to actually listen to that part, then I'm just curious to your contention to the second premise.
Thank you for the meta. Why would I grant that we're reporting objective facts?
That was not the meta, actually. That was something directly relevant to what we were talking about previously, but that's okay. What's up?
I'll refer back to my prior question, which I want an answer to.
Sure, go for it. Are we gonna repeat the question, or are you just gonna like wait on to like respond to the question again or something? Which one is?
Yeah, why would I grant that we're reporting objective facts in the moral domain?
Why would you grant that moral facts? I didn't hear your point. Sorry.
Why would I grant that we're reporting objective facts when engaging in moral deliberation?
Because moral deliberations are evidence-based deliberations, which generally report subjective facts about their domain. That's the reason. That was so easy.
Why would I grant that?
I would grant that because of the inductive case supporting that.
I don't think the induction supports that.
Oh, really? So if I list like at least 8 examples of this being true, would you still say the same thing?
No, because in order for the induction to support it, it'd have to be more predicted on the hypothesis that you're giving, and I don't grant that.
You think inductivism entails some sort of like predictive power?
Yeah, typically.
Okay, so why does it logically entails predictive power? Why can't you have like an inductive case which is not predicted by a given theory, but still supports that theory insofar as probabilistic inference is concerned?
I suspect that it's baked into my concept of induction.
Wait, hold on here a second. So like you said, for it to be the case that like something, or for induction to be something which is probability based, and for a theory, it has to be predicted by that theory. So it is baked into your concept of induction for it to be the case that induction has to predict this specific data. So couldn't I just respond to your specific like justification for why it has to be something which is related to predictive power by saying that given my concept of induction, it does not have to be something which establishes any sort of like prediction?
Do you agree with the proposition I wrote in general?
I'm not looking at general chat. I'm not even looking at chat.
I mean, I'm sure you're on your computer. You can take a look.
I'm not on my computer. I'm on mobile. Anyone on
Okay,
Teams can
well,
see.
so the sentence is some data D is evidence for H if D is predicted on H over H1. Do you dispute that?
What you said?
Some data D is evidence for H if D is predicted on H over H1.
So you're saying that it is evidence for this given hypothesis if it is predicted by the hypothesis? Yeah, I agree. The predictions are going to be evidence for a hypothesis being true. It does in fact raise the posterior probability of like given hypotheses, given how conditional probabilities work in Bayesian theory. Like that's just going to be something that is irrelevant to the point I'm making. The point I'm making is simply that why would it be the case that induction, right, would logically entail the idea that there has to be a prediction that is generated by that theory that the induction is in support of, that there would be an inductive case for that theory. And you have not given any argument except you saying it's baked into your concept. So since you want to say it's baked into your concept, then I'm just going to ask for the logical contradiction.
It is and is not involving predictions.
What's the laugh, bro? What the fuck? Are you saying there's a contradiction?
Yeah, and I just said the contradiction.
You said it is and is not, correct?
Right, given my concept.
Yeah, and how are those two like logically entailed from induction, given the concept of induction that you have on the table?
Because I define induction as having to do with predictions on a hypothesis.
And is there any mathematician which agrees with this definition? Is this like a generally agreed upon definition of induction in mathematics?
I'm giving the ones that are typically given when people are giving inductive arguments, like the fine-tuning argument, for instance.
But I thought we're discussing a mathematical case. So I mean, if like the definition you're using here as it pertains to this mathematical concept is not something which is explicitly or implicitly agreed upon by mathematicians in this domain, then I just take it to be the case that I have good reasons to dismiss your proprietary definition. And obviously, you're attacking my arguments, right? And my argument is based off my concept of induction, which I think justifies the claim being true. So you imposing your concept into this debate is not even addressing my concept to begin with.
You asked me for my concept.
I asked you for the contradiction, given your concept.
I'm glad you've derailed it
And
by
me
your
asking
admission.
for your concept is not me establishing that your concept would be a relevant defeater to my specific argument, by the way, just to be clear.
I'm glad you understand that you derailed.
I'm glad you understand that that was not a derail, by the way.
I don't think so, but let's just think for a second. So, you're saying that it's supported. It's not supported in the sense, it's not inductively supported in the sense that it's predicted. So, if it's not inductively supported in that sense, then in what sense is it inductively supported?
It is supported in the sense that there's a frequency of independent variables convergent with a specific population mean.
Right.
Yep, that's the sense in which it is supported in.
You're saying there's a higher frequency of domains that involve deliberation being about objective facts?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, what's the argument for that?
The argument for that is just going to be the set of observations I have, which supports that, which is just going to lead me to listing all of the cases of evidence-based deliberations, being things which report objective facts about the respective domains, and given the available data that we have on the table, there doesn't seem to be as much cases against the view, or there being more cases against my view. So, yeah.
I didn't catch it. What's P1 of the argument?
I'm not formalizing the arguments unless you want that's necessary.
I mean, you could
Like
just
if you
repeat it.
need like a formalization of the argument to track the argument, then really and truly, sir, I'm just concerned about your comprehension skills.
Yeah, that's
Taking off to respond. Interesting. But
okay,
look, I'm just gonna like give you like all of the
then.
cases, right? It's like really simple. And then you can like, if you disagree with the inductive case, you can just show me the several cases which establishes the contrary, right? Or you can show me like reasons to doubt as to why these cases are even correct, right?
Well, you're making a claim that most of these cases have this property. I don't grant the claim.
I know you don't grant the claim. That's why we're having this debate in the first place. Of course you don't grant the claims. That was just like a no-brainer. What was the point of you mentioning this?
Yeah, so you don't grant the.
I'm saying I can easily prove the claim by establishing the cases.
And then you didn't want to give an argument for the claim. Except some like natural language thing where you kind of repeated the claim.
I don't know why you're assuming that I don't want to give an argument for my claim. I told you I'm willing to give all the cases.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that you giving cases would actually establish that conclusion.
You don't think someone given the frequency of cases supporting something being inductively justified is evidence for it being inductively justified?
What's being questioned is if there is that greater frequency, right?
Of course, I know that's what's being questioned, but you said that you don't believe that given these cases, which establishes a greater frequency, would not be evidence or would be evidence for the inductive case.
Yeah, I'm denying that there is.
How else do you think? How else do you think we establish something being inductively justified?
I'm denying that there is a greater frequency.
Yeah, how do you think we justify the greater frequency for X being sure without giving the freaking cases, the observational cases, or listing the observational cases for this being sure?
I mean, there's different methodologies you could give.
Name the methodology.
You could just put it in the background that those cases have a higher frequency. You could rely on your seeming.
But obviously, if I do that, you're just going to say my claim is begging the question, or my argument is begging the question against your. So
right. You could also try relying.
Methodology.
You could also try to rely on seemings you have with respect to what has a higher frequency, but
really, because my seemings is strongly suggesting that this has higher frequency, but you're not going to grant that seeming.
Yeah.
So those are even worse fucking means of justificatory pieces on the table for establishing the frequency of a given proposition.
Yeah, it seems like you don't have a good way to do that.
It seems as if you don't have a good way to establish any alternative cases of establishing something being inductively justified.
I wasn't giving an alternative case, so that's fine.
You were actually. I asked you for alternative methodology, and you just did that.
You said, what's the methodology to establish whether or not there is in fact a higher frequency?
I didn't ask what's a methodology. You criticized my methodology of establishing something being justified based off the frequency, and you said, and then I asked you,
no, that's not what I questioned.
Wait, hold on there a second. And then you responded by saying that there are alternative methodologies of doing so. When I asked you how else could we do that, and then you gave those alternative methodologies, but now you claim that you did not give alternative methodologies, you're not even tracking the conversation.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning if frequency is what gives support.
Wait, so just to be clear, you did attempt to give alternative methodologies of justifying the frequency of a proposition in inductivism cases. Sorry.
Right, that's not a claim I denied.
No, you literally said you did not give alternative methodologies, but that's okay, right? So that was like perhaps like the fourth track and error on your part. Really unfortunate, but to be clear in this, like your methodologies, right, that you mentioned, which you believe to be credible, by the way, credible evidence for something being justified based off the frequency of a given proposition, would be something which would actually support my claim. Because my Siemens converges with the claim that evidence-based deliberations would report objective facts about their given domains. That's for sure, right? And obviously, I have some sort of like background commitment to that claim, given my intuitions. So both of your methodologies will be consistent with my proposition being true.
They'd also be consistent with his falsity. Nice job.
Yeah, but then my methodology would not be consistent with yours. So nice job. Checkmate right there.
No, we'd have the same methodology, but the methodology would support you being justified.
It's funny
in it
because
and me
my
being justified in the
methodology is
negation.
actually the one used by mathematicians and scientists, but yours is just like this weird, like, I don't know, caveman methodology you just made up in the fucking background or something. It's okay, man. I mean, like, if this is your way of coping with your like lack of contentions, that's fine, right? But like,
I don't
it's
think
getting
any of
really
the
sad.
methodologies I offered were made up, but whatever.
How really? Of course, man.
But yeah, I'm glad you don't have an argument for the claim.
I'm glad you think that I don't have an argument because you're tracking in the building.
That was very witty.
I mean, just for the sake of like your credibility as a debater, I think you should like stop this conversation because it's just really embarrassing yourself right now, really truly.
Yeah, it is embarrassing that I'm seen speaking to you here.
Yeah, stop embarrassing yourself, Chim Chom.
Okay.
Good.
All right, so we're gonna put the polls in PSA, and you guys can go vote. Hold on, let me make the poll real quick.
Majority of people in PSA don't even, bro.
Who
Majority of people in
won?
PSA don't even watch the fucking debate.
Who won? Oh, you're. Why are you pre-coping? What the fuck?
I just don't use polls, man. People just don't like me. But Goons, were you recording this?
Yeah, it's
I
recorded.
love it. W man, W.
Yikes! It's not looking good for. It's not. It's not looking very good for you, Apollo.
It never looks good for me on polls, man. Just out.
I wonder why that is.
Because I'm just like the most hated celebrity out here, man.
A celebrity?
Of course, man.
Celebrity Apprentice. That's